There is dirt and lies that are circulated in email, and they pump them out long enough until finally you, a mainstream reporter, asks me about them. And then that gives legs to the story. If somebody has evidence that myself or Michelle or anybody has said something inappropriate, let them do it.
We're back with the Politics Fix, and that was, of course, Barack Obama on the airplane there last Thursday talking about internet rumors and trying to knock them down. Today, his campaign launched a major effort to do just that, a website called FightTheSmears.com, where rumors are confronted head-on, that's what they say, and knocked down. His question is, will it work? The panel tonight, Jim Warren, a heavyweight from the Chicago Tribune, Krista Freeland of the Financial Times, Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post. We got a great group tonight. You're all mainstream media, like it or not. Is this not a phenomenon?
So are you, Chris. So are you.
No, I'm a challenger to the system. I speak truth to power. James Warren, is he not right in saying that some sleazebag can put something on the internet without any foundation? If he runs or she runs it long enough, sooner or later, a serious reporter confronts a public official with that, perhaps on camera, and the sleazebag has accomplished their sleazy goal of putting some dirt on the air or in a paper of some quality.
Absolutely, empirically, metaphysical certitude, unequivocally, you are absolutely right, Chris. I mean, it's easy to be condescending about some of this stuff, particularly us in the mainstream media, by saying, well, they tend to preach, these sites tend to preach to the converted, they tend to confirm previous biases. But you also got to remember, as we are exhibiting right now, they tend to get larger audiences as a result of their being reported on by the evil mainstream media and then being picked up by bloggers. So I think if the facts are correct, for somebody like Obama, this can be a net positive. Of course, at the same time, we are living in a country in which we still have lots of Americans who think that either Saddam Hussein or the U.S. government are to be blamed for 9/11, in which I think 1 out of 7 Americans can't even point to Iraq on a map. I would hope that facts occasionally would win out, but you know, more often than not they don't. But I think unavoidably the Obama camp is doing something that's smart.
Jonathan, how do you keep the sludge in the sewer? How do you keep, as a journalist, from if you read these blogs, if you read them, you just surf around and pick up stuff sort of mindlessly. Sometimes you pick up stuff you don't remember where you heard it, and you talk about it, or it comes into your sort of conversation. All of a sudden, I find it in long takeout pieces, just little references, and I wonder, wait a minute, was that substantiated by any editor or any quality newspaper?
Right.
And I don't think so.
Well, that's one of my own personal problems about just blogs where information is just thrown out there, and there's no due diligence, there's no running it down to see if it's actually true at the outset. We have to remember that there were emails going around, maybe I think at the beginning of the campaign 17 months ago, talking about Barack Obama being a Muslim, how he was educated in a madrasa, how he's not really Christian, and lots of things. I think it got to a point where Senator Obama and the campaign realized that they could talk about these things not being true, but they had to put them down someplace in a permanent place where everyday people could go and see for themselves whether these things are true. I was getting questions from relatives asking, did you hear this? Is this true? And so I think it's good that the Obama campaign is giving some people some place to go.
And right now, I have to say it again because you raised it again. He's not, by all the evidence we have, and I'm not going to be like Hillary Clinton saying, as far as I know,
right.
by the due diligence of everyone in public life, from the time this guy emerged as a figure, he's been checked out. He is a Christian. He has never been a Muslim, never been trained in that faith at all. It's totally baseless, put out by people who are either deeply suspicious themselves of his background or out for trouble.
And guess what? Still, in public opinion surveys, there's this 12% that continues to believe, despite all the denials, that he's Muslim.
They want to believe it. And in fact, I love the question where somebody was told by a reporter, he's not, and they say, well, he is to me. In other words, it's an attitude thing. He's got that name. He comes from that background, so he is. It's an attitude. It's nasty. We got to live with it. It's a free country. Your thought, Christian?
Well, I was just going to say, Chris, you mentioned the Swift Boat episodes with John Kerry, and I think actually that piece of recent political history is really helpful to Barack Obama because he and his campaign have seen what these sorts of stories if not confronted right away, can do to a candidate. And I think history doesn't always repeat itself, and that very recent experience, I think, will have an impact. The other thing I think to remember is Barack Obama is the internet candidate, and he has run the internet campaign. So I'm not surprised that they've had a fairly sophisticated technical response to these rumors. And I would be also not surprised if some of their supporters develop their own sort of independent grassroots responses that might be pretty effective.
One problem, Jim, might be, James Warren, is by having a website that accumulates almost like flypaper all the bad stories out there and refutes them, rebuts them, well, with some success, one might think, is going to make it easy for his critics to go around and shop for bad stories. You just go to his website, see what he's rebutting, put them out fresh on some other website.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I agree. On the other hand, you know, if you think back to 20, 30, 40 years ago when, you know, the Chicago Tribune, CBS News, Associated Press, and a few others were the sole gatekeepers, I think by and large, amid all the hand-wringing over the Internet, by and large, it's a lot better to have a lot of this information out. I wish there were a lot more editors and reporters out there in the evil mainstream media who were doing a fair amount of fact-checking. So I have no problem with that stuff being out there. I do have ultimately a problem with how many folks are actually going to understand, no matter how many times you tell them that the guy didn't go to a madrasa, no matter how many times you tell them he's not a Muslim, how many people out there will actually believe it? Again, 1 out of 7 can't even point to Iraq on a map, and you got all those people who think Saddam was to blame for what happened at the World Trade Center. But good thing that the stuff is out there.
You're unbelievable. We'll be right back with the roundtable for more of the politics fix. You're watching Hardball on MSNBC.